Who would have thought someone who uploads mostly Fire Emblem content would switch to a different genre of gaming, but I also play other games. This is what was chosen in the voting in one of my recent community votes. I really wanted to do Batman Arkham Knight because I recently played it for the first time, but this is what you guys decided on, so I'm going through with Devil May Cry and then uploading Batman Arkham Knight later in the future. So welcome back, and it's been quite some time since my last video, so let's just jump into it. Devil May Cry 5 is the 5th installment of the Devil May Cry series, if you don't count the reboot or whatever. I'm a bit familiar with playing hack and slashes or difficult games in general, such as the Bayonetta series, Hades, Hollow Knight, and so on. To think it's already been 5+ years since the release of Devil May Cry 5, yet only playing it for the first time in 2023. Now, there's a lot I want to talk about regarding this game, so let's just start with one of the weaker aspects of the game, the story. Now, this isn't to say the story itself is bad. One could say it leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, it's a story, but it's not something to write home about. In a nutshell, you are fighting a demon named Urizen, who has infected the city, and spoiler alert, it's really Vergil, but not exactly. We'll get to that in a bit. Nero, who was introduced in DMC4, tags along with newcomer V, who has a less direct style of combat, and I'll get into that again soon. Nero and V get their ass kicked and have to retreat until 1 month later, the two decide to head back and confront Urizen once again. A whole bunch of missions happen and Nero fights Urizen just to get his ass kicked again. Dante pulls up and wins, ending up in the greatest scene of all time. The endgame stretch leads to the underworld depths, fighting a couple of bosses along the way, and Dante confronts Vergil one final time, and suddenly Nero gets Devil Trigger powers. If it wasn't obvious enough, he is related to Vergil. The lyrics to his battle theme Devil Trigger hinted it, which is pretty neat. The ending raises questions about if Nero is the new star of the show, which I'm pretty sure will happen, but by some way Dante will play an important role in the next game. Oh, and I completely forgot about Nico, by the way. Nico is okay. She's personally forgettable to me. Aside from being a crafting genius of making devil breakers and having a southern accent, she's fine. After chapter 13, she's basically gone, and I guess she's supposed to be comedy relief. Lady and Trish make an appearance, but they tagged along with Dante, so pretty much incapacitated from the opening cutscene. The characters overall great, starting with my favorite character, Nero. Easily the best character to play as. Nero is a badass character. While having a more serious, short-tempered side of his character, he doesn't like to play around and only cares about getting stronger and the people involved in his life. Kirie, the love interest of Nero, is one of those characters. And while not having a direct appearance in this game, she does have voice lines, albeit minimal voice lines. She's mainly more known in DMC4, as that is her debut game, and so is Nero's. Nero is one of those characters I relate to, relying a bit too much on my emotions while carrying himself seriously and sometimes having a big ego that can be deflated easily. He also has a disliking towards Dante for calling him deadweight, which is understandable.
I'm gonna go too.
Why don't you sit this one out?
Oh, let you call me deadweight again? No thanks.
You're just deadweight!
His weapon, the Red Queen, is awesome. I love the idea of revving a sword to flame opponents and burn them, as well as the Blue Rose, his gun, having a charge as well. He has Devil Breakers in his game, and as opposed to the Yamato in DMC4, beating the game as well nets you the Devil Bringer too, resulting in cool cinematics to enemies and bosses. You can also do these cinematics with a certain Devil Breaker, but overall, he is definitely my favorite character to play out of the main characters. I could play as him for hours in the main missions or in Bloody Palace, and I'd still have a lot of fun. I could gush on and on about the air combos you can do with him, and the cool cinematics as well from the enemies and bosses, but you know, I'm on a time limit in this video, so let's move on to V. V, a newcomer, has a quite mysterious personality to him. While being a generally calm person, he is one to have a shit ton of things hiding about him. He is the human half of Vergil, so the missions in which he has Nero is really father and son time. And what other way is there to spend father and son time other than killing demons? In chapter 8, V tells Nero he is off to do other things, collecting the Sword of Sparta. With that build, come on, you better hit the gym, V. Well, despite literally the game taking place in 12 hours, he has knowledge of the underworld like he lives there. So the other characters raise more questions about him, but as the story progresses, he starts to show cracks of himself. Literally. So, since he is the human half of Vergil and Urizen is the demon half of Vergil, they can only hold their forms for so long. So by chapter 17, V fuses with Urizen and Vergil's back. My goodness, his slick back. Anyways, let's actually talk about his gameplay. As I mentioned before, he doesn't have a direct style of combat. Instead, he uses these demon creatures, Griffin, Shadow, and Nightmare, each having unique functions to themselves. Griffin has range, so he can shoot pellets of electricity or charge them up to unleash lightning bolts. Shadow is an up-close panther, so he is the one taking place in direct combat instead of be himself, and he can shapeshift into things as well, which is a cool detail I like. Nightmare is, well, a nightmare for enemies and bosses. He is able to get you triple S ranks pretty well, and he also consumes your double trigger, so he is only temporary. He hides in V's hair, I suppose, and it causes all hell to break loose, shooting lasers, breaking enemy defensive stances, the list goes on. The creatures can die and lose health while out there, so that prevents the player from just camping across the map. The main way to revive them, and quickly by the way, is to be next to their vessel things. And you better make sure they are alive, otherwise you are done for because V has no combat moves. However, there is one little trick. If you have Nightmare available, you can spawn them and they regenerate immediately, and they're basically immortal until Nightmare is gone, requiring 3 double trigger notches minimally. These shadows can also finish off enemies directly, resulting in V having to finish them off with his cane to grab a kill. These finishers V does are really satisfying to pull off. V has no way to do physical damage, and in my 3rd playthrough I found out about the book charge. This book can grant you the ability to charge up your double trigger gauge when it is emitting a purple aura. If it isn't, then you're not charging in at all. He's just reading a bunch of gibberish. He can also use his creatures to dodge with shadow, or glide as I say loosely. He can get on top of Nightmare's shoulders and control him somewhat. Even for a character that you aren't directly involved in with the flow of combat, V can still be fun to use. But as people usually play Dante, Nero, or Vergil, the main missions have fixed characters that you have to play. But still, we have Dante to cover, so we'll do that. Everybody loves Dante. The nonchalant, talking, crazy, laid back guy. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I got rusty as hell with Dante. Now, don't get me wrong, Dante is still fun to play, but changing fighting styles on the fly gets disorienting for me at times. Going from mashing buttons with the sword to using guns is weird for me. Dante's setups are not as straightforward as Nero, which you can still pull off good air combos and air juggles and such, so it's more of a personal thing of why I prefer Nero over Dante. You help with the double breakers, having a grapple hook built into Nero, grabbing the enemies and slashes them. In cases such as large enemies, fly to them pretty much, keeping the action going. But with Dante, you have to switch to Trickster, then you have to switch to Royal Guard if you want to hold off enemy attacks, then you have to switch to Swordmaster if you want to get more damage, then you have to switch to Gunslinger if you want to keep the damage going, you know, so on and so forth. Dante is complicated, but once you get really good with him, he is fun as hell. Like, I want to like playing as him, I really do, and he's fun. He's a fun character. I got really rusty with him because I haven't played in like months, like going into this video. So I love Dante, I just need to get better with him, that's all. So in the main 20 missions, you play and you are locked to a certain character, or in some cases you can choose to play as a different character. The levels themselves are pretty good while having a narrow path to the end, which is usually a boss fight. The enemies are not mindlessly bad, but you have to pay attention and can't get away with cheesing as much. Some enemies that I absolutely hate is this red speed guy, which his actual name is the Fury, who vanishes and then tries to sneak you from behind and then tries to catch you off guard. There's also the behemoths, which take forever to kill, and the worst of them all, these f***ers, the Hell Judaica, if I'm pronouncing it rightly. This f***er just loves to teleport around the map while taking super long to kill, and can easily ruin your style ranking from going to triple S to dismal any matter of seconds. Most of the enemies are easy to deal with since they don't have much HP, but compared to the bosses, they're nothing. The bosses are damn good, except for the ones in V's missions. They're tedious to kill, especially on Dante Must Die. Bosses don't appear in every mission. There are sometimes mini bosses, but most of this game is bosses at the end of every mission. The levels where Nero is playable are missions 0 to 3, 6 through 8, 13, 15, and 20. V is playable on the following missions 4 and 5, mission 7, mission 9, missions 13 to 14. Dante is playable in the following missions, mission 10 through 13, 16 through 19. The game does a good job balancing out the character's playtime, as you get to experience the characters for a good amount of time. In some cases you can play other characters such as in mission 7 and mission 13. I would love for Nero to have more playable missions, especially late game, but for story reasons he doesn't get more missions. But Dante having his late game missions works fine because the first time you play as him is mid game, he gets new weapons, and as the game progresses it is cool to try out his new weapons such as the Michael Jackson hat and the new guns that you get. Other thing is the levels themselves look really beautiful, and it's honestly incredible that this thing runs at 60 FPS. While yes, I'm playing on the Xbox Series S, this is ultimately the Xbox One version I am playing, so no One X enhancements or DMC5 SE graphics or changes. The cutscenes themselves are done very well, and the level of care put into these are great. Seeing Malphus talking at night, while in reality it looks like this before editing. The cutscenes are for the most part motion captured. I like this because it gives the characters more life and expression, and all the movements feel more natural. My only issue with the cutscenes is the interactions of some characters. While they feel very awkward, such as Nico. Like, it feels like they're just strangers, but at the same time they're friends. It's a really awkward space, if you get my drift. But overall, a lot of love and care put into these cutscenes, but we'll get to the levels. The levels are mostly just a bunch of battles, until you usually reach a boss fight or arena mini-boss. All the boss fights are unique in their own way and providing their own challenges and such. Starting with Goliath, he is the first major boss battle after the prologue in chapter 1. I'm going to skip the plant thing for this one. Despite his giant size, he is not that hard to kill. The only issue I have with this fight is fighting in the enclosed space in the second phase of the fight, but once you do enough damage to him, he is a breeze to kill. Using Gerbera, one of the devil breakers, is quite helpful. It is a early game devil breaker and it is very useful since it allows you to dodge out of attacks but into attacks as well, which is another reason I love playing as Nero. You can also charge the devil breakers to provide some ultimate of some sort. They vary through each devil breaker. The devil breakers provide something new for Nero to play with, whether it's dodging attacks, breaking enemy defenses with Helter Skelter, having a strong grapple and AoE attack with Rawhide, stopping time altogether, and so on. Goliath is a good beginner boss and isn't too difficult to avoid. Artemis is the chapter 3 boss, having a screaming voice, lasers, mini star things, and diving as her primary ways of attacking. Since Nero can grapple onto her star things, it is a lot easier to get to the boss than constantly avoiding the attacks. There is one attack where he charges up some AoE attack, but I rarely let that happen because there's dealing enough damage to her will cancel that attack out, resulting in more damage and making her vulnerable to a cool cinematic. And it is also really badass just seeing Nero just rev that sword into Artemis, which is awesome. Next is this thing, some worm boss that is stuck in place, so you're in a tiny arena for this fight. It's annoying to actually dodge hits since you're playing as V and from 3 tentacles, mind you. The boss just runs away from being in the actual fight, so you have to wait a bit to be able to attack him directly. Nightmare makes this boss a lot easier, fortunately. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of this boss, and moving to the next boss, the Garyon Knight. You are in an open space where the boss is running around constantly, so you have to follow it to make sure the creatures don't die. And he can slow down time with these bubbles that I call them, the bubbles of time. But that's mostly it, aside from rushing in to kill you a few times. And there's another boss that I absolutely hate. This next boss. The Gilgamesh is not fun at all. He takes forever to kill and you can't constantly attack him. You have to wait for his sweet spot to show up and only then you finally do damage to us. He is easily the worst boss of the game since you can't stay in a certain spot and just farm his damage or whatever. You have to constantly be moving around, which sure is fine, but you always have to make sure you don't get hit while you're on top of him because he just spawns him some spikes from his back out of nowhere. The next boss is really fun. Urizen's second form is terrifying to look at. He has tentacle targets, spawns roots, but is mostly the same attacks from when he is sitting down on his throne. Definitely a boss fight made difficult, and one of the better boss fights. The only issue I have with this is why did they have to make it even more difficult with the shield coming back after doing certain damage? You just spent so much effort to break it, and now you have to break it again. But wait, you must dodge these tentacles, meteors, lasers, fire eruptions, and so on, all while trying to kill him. I like that he's difficult, but holy shit, he is hard to kill. In chapter 10, you fight Urizen, and this is the same boss as in the prologue that you fought with Nero, so it's essentially the same thing except that it's kind of scripted, because if you die, the story progresses. It's similar to the prologue when you're fighting Urizen as Nero. Again, it's similar moves, except that he's sitting on the throne, similar to the prologue again, but instead of standing up as opposed to chapter 8. You're also limited if you're playing this on a brand new save file or if you're playing for the first time. However, on repeat playthroughs, you have all the weapons you need, so if you're playing under a different difficulty such as DMD, will be fine. And it's the same experience, but chapter 10 is just not a fun chapter for me, especially if you're playing on DMD mode. Mission 11 is easily my favorite boss in this game, fighting Neo Angelo, which is the same knight that you took down in chapter 5 for V's fight, but except that he doesn't have the horse this time, so he's on his own. He has a huge electric sword which can be charged up and has some armor that you can shred through before actually doing damage to him, but you can parry his attacks, which just makes the fight itself more cinematic than it needs to be. And the weapon that you get from him after fighting him is a motorcycle that can be torn apart, and it's a really cool weapon that can do some heavy damage. The music itself in that boss is really good. There's not enough I could say in words that'll just make it as fun as it sounds. Just play the boss and you'll get exactly what I mean. However, fighting him with Dante is a little easier, mainly because of the Trickster ability and Royal Guard, making it so much easier to block and dodge attack. It's basically the same boss, except you get Sudden Double Trigger Dante, or SDT for short. SDT Dante does ridiculous damage, and if you are able to maintain a triple S rank of style, you can cancel his SDT form at will and transform right back at a moment's notice. However, it's really difficult to maintain a triple S, which is what makes it super rewarding for players that can pull it off. I can pull off a triple S with Nero no problem, but since I'm washed with Dante, I am cooked. Even if I do reach triple S, it's difficult to maintain. You have to keep up the damage and try not to get hit. If you get hit, there goes your triple S. Mission 14 is a boss rush where you fight 3 bosses. You have to fight a boss, then get a creature, repeat, then beat the level. At this point of the story where V is literally falling apart, so he isn't well feeling good. This is the last mission to play as V. After that, it's mission 15 where you fight Malphite. She is a fun boss. Her teleporting seems annoying on paper, but she doesn't teleport like crazy. Her attacks consist of spikes emerging from the ground, charging at you, and the chicken literally trying to peck you. She is definitely a great boss and works well with Nero's style of play. The Devilbringer cinematic is also pretty damn good. Following this is playing as Dante for the next 4 missions straight. So let's jump to Cerberus. Now, this is one hell of a boss. Cerberus is a damn good boss. Who doesn't love a good boy? Okay, I'm not saying that ever again. He has 3 forms, 1 for each head. The fire form, he is extremely aggressive on you, having claw attacks and trying to eat you. He's the most difficult form out of all of them because dodging him is tricky, and one thing you have to remember is to hit the head. Hitting anywhere else does little to no damage. You have to do enough damage to whoever is in control and for the next head to be in charge. Up next is the electric form. He shoots out electric pellets, nothing more, nothing less. The easiest form. The ice form, he stays in the center and shoots icicle shards from the ceiling, and they do damage alright. The other 2 forms are not that bad, so it's all fun and games until the fire form comes back. It's rinse and repeat until you kill him, granting you the Cerberus, nunchucks, launch staff, and lightning cast. I love this weapon. It's easily my favorite weapon to use, and stringing up combos with it is really fun. Moving to the next boss is Urizen round 3 with Dante. He is looking a lot more different, and primarily because he had a damn apple. He is more of a threat this time because he teleports, uses his fists and legs to attack you now. He has the same attacks and a couple of new ones as well. He teleports a bit too much for my liking and makes it annoying to keep up a good rank with him. But this is Dante we're playing as he can keep up no problem. Anyways, beating this boss ends up with V and Nero pulling up when V asks Dante to finish Urizen. And then they fuse together, creating Vergil. And you get where this is going in the next few chapters. So, this next mission is a set of bosses. But mission 18 is a stupidly annoying mission to get a good rank in. Having to fight Griffin and Shadow individually or as a duo, that's reasonable. But even worse is having to fight Nightmare and both of them at once. Nightmare is pretty damn difficult to dodge in this fight and killing him is not easy. And this isn't even on Dante Must Die, this is on Son of Sparta and I'm still struggling big time on it. They use the same attacks from when you play it as them, so I'm not going to repeat myself. Just know that this boss is hell if you're trying to get an S rank or no damage the level.
Hey, Vergil! Give me the Amato.
If you want it, then you'll have to take it. But you already knew that.
So, moving to mission 19 is the man himself, Vergil. He's obviously going to be a great time to fight a 1v1 sword duel, both of the brothers using their SDT forms to fight each other. Vergil spamming judgment cuts and his doppelganger to kill Dante, meanwhile spamming Royal Guard helps nicely. If you time the attacks of the Royal Guard, you can be chilling for most of the fight, since Vergil's attacks are not that hard to predict. Vergil's judgment cuts and pellets are easiest to block, but after the fight ends, they're going to kill each other. Then Nero shows up that yes, he is that guy. But before we get to Nero, I do want to go a little more in depth in a fight because Vergil's fight is pretty damn good. So there's a lot of ways you can attack Vergil. You can attack Vergil by just royal guarding with no weapons and taunt him, and he actually does have a line for it, which is pretty funny. Or you can just go bash crazy on him, but even if you do rack up enough damage, he's gonna teleport away, so you can't just juggle him, which kind of sucks, but it makes sense because the boss would be that easy if you could just juggle him to death. But back to Nero. Double Trigger Nero is similar to normal Nero with a few changes, with attacks such as Showdown and having his attacks amplified a bit. You can also use your DT to heal yourself and stay in the fight. It's quite reliable to use Double Trigger if you need healing and don't have any green orbs available to heal you up. Since DT Nero is pretty damn strong and he has the blood of Sparta, and because he is Vergil's son, so Dante is his uncle. It contradicts something that Urizen said early in chapter 8, where he said demon blood does not course through your veins, yet he was the demon half of Vergil, so I guess he didn't know that. But the actual boss is a little easier than Dante's versions because you can stagger Vergil and do easy damage. Nero has his own cinematic with Vergil and triggers the song Silver Bullet, which is a damn good song.
Hell no! Fuck you! Take me seriously now?
I should mention briefly about the music. Each character has their respective style of music. Nero is a bit of dubstep, bass, and electric music, or a bit of EDM thrown into it. Dante is hardcore heavy rock. V is industrial and metal. Vergil is just perfect heavy metal all the way and a perfect workout song. I prefer Vergil's the most out of all these. The soundtrack overall is mostly set pieces played in cutscenes, and the levels have ambience, so you mostly hear the character battle themes in combat. So back to Vergil. Once he has his Sin Devil form active, he's dangerous to deal with, having a more aggressive moveset, spamming judgment cuts and the sword. Killing him, well, ends the game. And speaking of Vergil, let's briefly talk about him. Any of the things you saw him do in the boss fight, you can do just that. He's exactly as broken as you'd like him to be. You can play as him for DLC for just $5. With it comes Bloody Palace. You basically can play the entire game as Vergil, and my goodness, he is fun to play. The whole Yamato has so many inputs, is insane. But I'd be here forever if I talked about Vergil's skills. So let's just jump to the last thing, the extra content. The Bloody Palace is a gauntlet of battles and bosses thrown in the mix, with the same bosses from the main story. However, as you progress the palace, the enemies start getting stronger, a bit too strong. Oh, and what's this purple aura? Oh no. This is Double Trigger. When playing on Dante Must Die, enemies can get aggroed enough to get DT'd, making them a lot more aggressive, faster, and stronger. The damage comparison is significant when it's normal and DT'd. This is also on bosses, so when you reach the later floors in Bloody Palace, don't be surprised if you die. It's not easy to get through. The last few floors are back-to-back bosses, fighting Nero 3 times and Vergil. One thing I love about Bloody Palace is fighting the bosses with other characters such as Goliath with Dante, Malphus, or V. People do speedruns with these, and it's honestly ridiculous how much damage and skill you can grow to. Dante clips on YouTube are everywhere and incredible, and Vergil finishers are just beautiful to watch. Overall, I absolutely love DMC5. It is my current favorite game of all time, dethroning Super Mario Galaxy. Playing this game for the first time was awesome, and becoming better with the characters is super rewarding, granting higher style points and clips to post online. The game seems like it doesn't have much content, but as the game is so replayable with its difficulties and all, starting from human mode to Dante Must Die mode is quite the change. But that's all I have to say. Anyways, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for future content, and as always, enjoy yourself and have a good one.